Jersey, Mike. Just 5 days to go until the NFL Combine is underway in Indy, heading into the draft. It's really a two-man race in terms of the quarterbacks, but another quarterback is actually making some big news. The Rams, according to a report out there, have given QB Matt Stafford's agent the go-ahead to talk to other teams. That is according to the NFL Network. The move would allow Stafford's camp to get a feel for what else might be out there in terms of his future. Stafford has played the past 4 seasons in LA after coming over in a trade with the Lions. Remember, he won a Super Bowl there in LA, beating the Bengals. But again, this report's coming out that Matt Stafford's agent has been given permission for Matt Stafford to speak to other teams. All right, right now let's welcome in Emory Hunt and Ryan Wilson. And gentlemen, we will get to the Combine in just a moment. But Ryan, I do want to start with this Matthew Stafford news that's just coming down here. We're hearing a report that his agent has been given permission for him to speak with other teams. When you're hearing this, what are some other spots that could be a fit? And do you think he's going to be playing in LA when it's all said and done come the upcoming season?
Hey, Jacqueline, LA feels like the obvious choice because you're playing in that Sean McVay offense. Maybe there's some issues with Cooper Kupp's future in LA as well. Maybe that's perhaps driving some of Matthew Stafford's thinking according to the report. But in terms of other teams, this is music to their ears because this isn't last year's draft class where we had 6 of those quarterbacks go in the top 12. We're going to have 2 guys go in the top 10. And then after that, there are going to be a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. I mean, it starts at the top with the Tennessee Titans. If they got Matthew Stafford in Nashville and then were able to trade down from that pick and accumulate even more picks, they're immediately competitive in the AFC South. The Steelers need a quarterback, and this is a recurring theme in a post-Big Ben world for them. Russ Wilson was okay last year. Justin Fields was okay last year, so we'll see what they're thinking. And of course, the New York Giants. They missed on Daniel Jones when they re-upped him, and then last year he got benched, and now he's a member of the Minnesota Vikings. They desperately need a quarterback, and where they pick in the draft at 3, Jacqueline, they may be out of range already for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So that would make a lot of sense. It's a big market, and he would come in right away and sort of feel like the savior in New York. And, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford together. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because there's so many teams that are, QB needy, and really there's 2 guys that we're really talking about in terms of draft prospects that are quarterbacks. So let's get back to the Combine and switch it back to that gear. Of course, there's a lot of things that we look forward to, right? Like what names are going to participate, or big names, I should say, what kind of stars are going to emerge from this. Emory, you can kick us off. What are you most looking forward to when it comes to the Combine?
Which quarterback is going to throw? Well, let's just assume we're not going to see Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward throw the football around, but that leaves the door wide open for someone that's vying for QB3. Jalen Milroe, the throwing session, I think will be very important for him, mostly due to the underneath passing game. He has been one of the best deep ball throwers in college football, but it's a short to intermediate area where he has to find consistency. So him wowing there just adds to what he can do because we know he's going to test athletically through the roof. Brady Cook is someone I'm a big fan of. How well does he go out there and compete? Kyle McCord, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, those guys have a huge opportunity to go out there and showcase because we know, we're just assuming the top 2 guys won't throw. Why? Because they don't have to.
Yep, that's right, Emory. And I think it's sort of a reverse arms race, Jacqueline, in that Cam and Shedeur don't have to throw because they're the top 2 guys. And if one isn't doing it, why would the other? And I think Emory's right about the quarterback with the most to prove who probably absolutely has to go through every drill, maybe save running the 40 time, and that's Jalen Milroe. He came in at 6'1" and change at the Senior Bowl. He has smallish hands by QB standards than their sub-9-inch hands. And he didn't have a great week. Didn't have a terrible week, but didn't sort of differentiate himself. When you talk to folks after that week, he was a little down on himself about how things went. He has an opportunity to turn this thing around. The draft process obviously isn't over. And the other thing to keep in mind, and we keep talking about this, last year the Senior Bowl, Jacqueline, Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix had average weeks. They were off the board by pick 12. So if Jalen Milroe can come in, and like Emory talked about, and it's sort of a weird thing to say, if he can show he can complete the short passes, because we know he can throw the ball 900 miles, but complete the short stuff, play with consistency, and it'll be a true test because he hasn't thrown to a lot of these guys, and then do well in the interviews. He'll be right back in the mix as a day 2 possibility, but he's going to have to do some heavy lifting next week for sure.
I don't know if I'm just, always thinking Gators, but I'm getting like flashbacks of Anthony Richardson vibes when we're talking about this, Ryan. Let's go to the wideouts because, of course, there are some big names. I mean, Travis Hunter, yes, he's like the wideout corner combo. That's an absolute unicorn. But like T-Mac, another guy that we really talk about. But Ryan, who is a wide receiver that we need to watch that could potentially boost their draft stock? Somebody you're going to be keeping an eye on.
Hey, Jacqueline, I heard you do a basketball segment prior to this one, and you seemed a lot more excited talking about Florida basketball than Florida football, so that's something to keep in mind. I thought it was just me and Emory that you were down on, but it's the whole football program. I get it.
Okay, like SEC basketball has been absolutely insane. Compared to SEC football, like down the stretch, DJ Lagway, like, yes, there's hope, but the right now for Florida basketball it's chef's kiss. I've said it again, I'll say it a million times. I'm sorry, Ryan, not to cut you off. Continue with your wide receiver to watch.
No, I love seeing happy Jacqueline. Sad Jacksonville Jaguars and Florida Gators, Jacqueline, is not a place we want to be. But in terms of the wide receiver that can certainly help themselves this week, and I'm going to do a deep cut. This young man has everything you want when you build a wide receiver, except that he struggles to catch the ball. Arian Smith out of Georgia. He's a 10-1-100 guy, and if you do the math on that and carry the 2, that's about a 4.2 in the 40-yard dash. So he's going to have an opportunity to threaten Xavier Worthy's record that he set last year. The issue is he caught 48 passes there. 10 drops. That's not great. And my comp for him is Ted Ginn, coming out back in the day from Ohio State, an absolute burner. But if he can show, because he's going to run fast, if he can show that he can catch the ball during the drills, that will be a game changer. Because for me, he has day 1 speed, but he's a day 3 grade because of the inability to consistently catch the ball. So he has a chance for a big week because we know he's going to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest person in Indianapolis next week.
I love that Ted Ginn comp, Ryan, because it depends on which Ted Ginn you're going to get. You're going to get Dolphins Ted Ginn? That's not what you want. Or you're going to get New Orleans Saints Ted Ginn? That's the one you want. So he has to have a good week. I'm with you right there. I like Kobe Hudson out of UCF. He was at the Hula Bowl and down there that week, watching him go through the routes and watching him catch the football with quarterbacks that have consistency. You forget how good of a football player he is. And because he had inconsistent quarterback play at UCF, seeing him at the All-Star game allow people to realize this is a special talent because when he runs his routes, his separation at the top of the route is fantastic. He's able to separate the defensive back from the route. Defensive back goes one way, he goes the opposite way, and he can catch the football. He's explosive, so I'm excited to see how he shows up against quarterbacks that are of good caliber at the combine because I feel like he's a bona fide X-receiver, and we're going to see him showcase that out there on the field in Indy.
All right, gentlemen. And Ryan, we just did a mock draft a couple of days ago where the scenario was the Raiders potentially trading up to get Shador. He has been linked to that team. So I actually spoke with resident Raiders super fan Guy Fieri at South Beach Food and Wine Festival. And I had to ask him what he thought about Shador being QB1 potentially. Take a listen.
I would have to default to what Pete Carroll would say.
Okay.
He's had so many great quarterbacks, and I mean, he's coached college, he's coached pro, so it would be his opinion of how does he think that he'll interface. I personally think a little veteranish, a little bit of a veteran player might be a little bit more of a leadership position for a team that's kind of been, I won't say we've had our ups and our downs, but we haven't been consistent. And I think that for a player like that, he goes into a team that has a little bit more structure, then he can kind of get his feet underneath them. I think when you got a lot of